I'm going to show you this. No. Adding animation to your buttons has never been easier, and you can use a lot of the style settings that you get inside of Elementor. But what if I show... Adding animation to your Elementor buttons is really simple with their style settings, but have a look at this button where we have an icon. When I hover over it, yeah, it changes color, but did you notice the icon disappeared and kind of moved inwards? Now that's not... Adding animation to your Elementor buttons is really easy to do with the style settings, but when I hover over this button, it changes color, and did you notice the icon move? Now, I know you're going to say, well, all it did was disappear and zoom back in a way, or slide in, but that little bit of a micro animations can make boring... No. Micro animations can make boring hover effects so much... No. Micro animations can turn your normal... No. Micro animations can turn your normal hover... No. Can make. Micro animations can... Micro animations can make your hover... Ow. Right, come on. Micro animations can make your... Yeah. Camera, action. Micro animations can make your hover effects so much more... Oh. Micro animations can make simple hover effects so much more interesting. I'm going to hover over this button. It changed color, but did you notice the icon? It disappears and then slides into view. And that little bit of a micro animation makes this so much better than just changing the color. So how did we do this? This is just your standard Elementor button. You know, you go and... Oh, I'm not even clicked on it. So how did we do this? This is... Ugh. So how did we do this? This is your standard Elementor button. You know, go and drop in your links, go and do your styling. Now, I'm going to keep this really simple. We have added in an icon. And by the way, what I'm going to show you, the CSS we're going to add is what controls the special animation. So we've gone and set an icon, and I've gone for like the arrow inside of a circle and the position on the styling side of things. You go and set your color for your normal and your hover. So that's where we're getting the change from the global reddish color to the global purple color. And then in the advanced tab, I've given it a class name of reloop-icon. You got to do that because otherwise we don't want this to affect other icons or other buttons that you have on your website. Remember, this is something you could do to your website just to make it a bit more interesting without flooding it with too many entrance animations and things that might make your website look a little bit messy. especially when you get to the mobile. So let's go and have a look at this code. This code or a copy of it will be in the video description. Reloop item. So if you go and pop in your own class name, please make sure you change that. You got to have elementor-button-icon because it needs to know what part of the elemental button it's touching. You know, you have classes within classes. So what we're basically saying is I want 0.8 seconds. So if you want to make it quicker, go ahead. If you want to make it longer, that might not be too much of a good idea. But I find 0.6, 0.7, 0.8 are the sweet spot. And then this is where I'm controlling the animation. Now, if you mess around with these values over here, by the way, all of this... No, don't say that. If you want to mess around with the values, you can do, but this is... If you want to mess around with the values, go ahead. If you want to mess around with the values, you can do, but just to clarify, this is telling it to move 10 pixels on the x-axis. If I change this to be the y-axis, you will now see it kind of move down. See that how it moved down? Can't even remember what flipping did there. There we go. Right, yeah. If you want to change the values in terms of how... No. If you want to change the values in terms... Oh, flipping heck. Come on. Come on. Come on. MacGyver. Come on. Do I shake the desk? If you want to change the values in terms of how it appears or disappears or how much it actually moves, you can do that over here. So just to clarify, the top line here is when it disappears and the bottom line is when it actually appears. So at the minute, this is going to disappear by moving 10 pixels. So if you want to change how it appears, no, start with disappears. If you want to change, no. Anyone watching this, right? Because I am actually going to release this. I've been thinking about it. I'm going to release this now as the pains of recording. I'm not making this up. This is how long it can take. So with the edited version of this, I bet it will only be about 2.5 minutes, maybe 3. 2.5 minutes long. And you're now going to see the pain I go through when I'm recording and how frustrating it can be. When you see a really long video that's half an hour, imagine how long the original video was and how much editing it took. Right. So I will release this and you're going to see this in full and you're probably going to laugh at me. Urgh. Right. I forgot what I was saying now. If you want to change, because I've got to make it edit, stitch together, edit. If you want to change the values, you can do that over here in terms of how it disappears and appears. Let me clarify that for you. TranslateX 10 pixels. So when I hover over it, you notice it moves 10 pixels to the right before it disappears. If I was to go and change this to be a -10 instead, it now moves backwards. So you kind of get a better understanding of that. But what about if I want it to slide downwards? So I'm going to change the X to be a Y. So now it slides down. And if you were to do -10, it would actually slide up. Let's pop that back over to X. And what about when it appears? So at the moment, it's on -10, so it comes in from the left. If I was to change that to be 10 instead, it now comes in from the right-hand side to the left. You got to get your head around this, and you will start to understand this a little bit better. And if we just change this to be a Y, -10, you'll now see it slides down. If I had set that to be translate Y10, it would come from the bottom. Can you have translate X and translate Y? You can do. You just got to make sure you just take a copy of that, stick it below after the semicolon, and then you can have the Y as well. So you can flex this around to be how you want. But this now, oh, sorry, I think I've still got my values wrong. Yep, I have. Let me just change that. Why did I do that? Let's pop that back to be X. So if you now want to flex this, what the? Oh, 10. Yeah, there you go. Let's pop that back to how it was so you can flex this to work for you in terms of how you want it to move. And like I said, these little micro animations can make quite a difference, especially for your call to action buttons or on your hero banner. Copy of this code will be in the video description. Don't forget the class name. I'm Imran from Web Squadron. I hope you like, subscribe, share, and follow. I'll see you soon. Fucking hell. All right, see you later. Bye. I can't even stop. Where's the mouse saying?